Hey Vinyl community, this is Tim with the University of Vinyl, back today with a new video. I wanted to jump on this contest that Dom from Seeking a Thread is in the middle of right now. I think the deadline is August 1st, so I definitely wanted to get this in. The name of the contest is Gold Sounds. And it's a celebration of Dom's 300th episode of his radio show, and also I think hitting, at the time that he launched the contest, like 582 subs. I'm pretty sure he's over 600 by now. So congrats, Dom. Dom's channel is fantastic. This guy has got a huge collection. He's got a very eclectic taste in his music. I hate to pigeonhole anyone, but I would say that Dom has got a huge penchant, or a large penchant, for kind of classic and vintage psych. I love his radio show. I like the fact that he has got it kind of packaged up as a podcast. So if you listen to podcasts, go look for Seeking a Thread. And I did listen to his 300th episode. I think last week I was on another business trip in my car, and it was a 3-hour show, and I really enjoyed it. So check out Dom's channel if you haven't already. It is well worth a sub. And also a sideline here, Eric Weinbender, member of the Vinyl community. Great guy. I don't know him personally, but he was recently involved in a serious car crash. He's on the mend, thank goodness, but anytime you're kind of throwing a curveball like that in life, it's not easy, it's not enjoyable, and he's going to have a little ways back for full recovery. There's a GoFundMe page out there. I think I'm going to drop a link to that. And cool thing that Dom is doing, he's saying that if he gets 10 entries to the Gold Sounds contest, he's going to toss another $100 into the GoFundMe for Eric. So very cool, Dom. Thanks for putting this on. Gold Sounds. Dom wants us to show a minimum of 5 records that are kind of touchstones, special significance in your journey in life. They touched you in a special way for whatever reason. Maybe highlight 1 or 2 songs from those albums. So here we go. I was a child of the 70s, and my parents had a turntable in the living room with a modest record collection. And I discovered it in the early 70s. I must have been probably 6, 7, maybe 8 years old. And the album that I found myself putting back on the turntable and figuring out how to use a turntable was Bridge Over Troubled Water, the 1970 classic album, Simon and Garfunkel. 2 songs, I just love 2 songs on this album. They have deeply resonated with me for whatever reason, probably because I was obsessed with this album at a young age, but that is the title track, Bridge Over Troubled Water. I also love Aretha's version of that song, and Keep the Customer Satisfied. I just love the horns on that track. I've gone as far as to collect multiple copies of this album. My kind of go-to copy these days, which I'm happy to have, lucky to have, is that Classic Records 200 gram reissue, audiophile reissue from, I think, the mid-2000s is when this came out. I picked this up last year on Discogs, found it at a decent price, and it sounds amazing. One thing I'm not crazy about, I think that cover is kind of muddy, a little pixelated, compared to a mid-70s reissue that I have. I don't know how good you're going to be able to see this on this video, but I think this is a little more crisp, a little more blue and less gray in that background. Anyway, I just remember as a kid reaching for this album, kind of reading the liner notes and the lyrics, staring at the covers, like, who are these two guys and why is Art partially, you know, hidden by Paul in the front? Anyway, so that is my first kind of touchstone album for me, Bridge Over Troubled Water. I'm going to move forward to high school, and I was in high school in the early 1980s, and I was kind of obsessed with The Who. I had discovered Who's Next and played it along with my buddies incessantly. And then, you know, when news came that It's Hard was coming out, I was all over it and went out and bought the vinyl album at my local record store. I grew up in northern Michigan. I had one record store in town. I actually had a paper route, and I remember on payday, I can't remember if it was like every other Friday, but I would try to buy at least one album. I remember distinctly buying this album, It's Hard. I also remember picking up Tattoo You and a handful of other albums. But on this album, the build up for it, I was going to a magazine newsstand that we had in town, reading Rolling Stone cover to cover, never buying it. I had delivered newspapers to that guy. I'm sure he considered me a pest because I would come in there and read every issue of Rolling Stone as they were published. And I remember there was a story in the review of It's Hard. I don't think Rolling Stone gave this album a raving review. I kind of consider this a grower. I think it has a little bit of a bad rap. I fell in love with the song Athena and Eminence Front. And I also remember renting the VHS. I think it was one of the Toronto shows. And I would rent that thing multiple times, play it on our television in the basement of our house. And that was an important album for me. In my junior year in high school, I was in the yearbook / high school newspaper class, and we were responsible for putting out the high school newspaper. I think we had an issue that came out monthly. I don't think we had an aggressive 2-week schedule on that thing, but I think we put out a monthly issue. I used to cover sports, and I actually did some album reviews as well. And we had a class trip planned to go to Chicago. I don't remember the exact occasion, some kind of a journalism conference or something. And so we had, it was a co-ed trip, which was exciting. I think we had 8 or 9 members of our class on that trip. We were in a rented van. Our teacher, Miss May, who was very groovy, was actually driving the van. And we had a boombox in there, and someone had the Signals cassette that we played multiple times, going there, coming back. It was a very cool trip to Chicago. This New World Man is a great song. This is a great album. We can talk about the merits of the follow-up to Moving Pictures, what people think. There's a little more of another direction in the Rush sound. One of the biggest regrets of my life is I never saw Rush live. I'm not going to have that chance anymore. But that is Signals from 1982, another kind of touchstone album for me, and particularly New World Man. So speaking of Chicago, I had a couple stints in Chicago, and in 1990 I was finishing up college. I did a little bit of a college tour, and was taking night classes and some day classes. I was waiting tables in trying to make ends meet. But having an incredible good time, meeting a lot of people in Chicago. I lived in Old Town on the corner of North and Wells. What a fantastic place. And in 1991, there was the Taste of Chicago. It's a big summer festival that Chicago has in Grant Park every year. Pretty sure they're still doing it. And all the cool restaurants in Chicago would have little tasters out, and there was live music. Basically a carnival atmosphere. Grant Park, great venue. Right in downtown off of Michigan Avenue. And the headliner that year was The Replacements, and this is their final album that came out in 1990, All Shook Down. I used to love the song, I still do, Attitude, and this was actually meant to be a Paul Westerberg solo album because they were basically breaking up. But I guess the label convinced him to put it out as a Replacements album. At this point in time, Chris Mars had left the band, and I think they had Steve Foley on drums, Slim Dunlap on guitar, of course Tommy was on bass. And when it came to the show in Chicago, it was a great show. They didn't play Attitude, unfortunately. And a kind of a weird thing happened at the end of the show. The guys kind of traded instruments, and I actually don't remember what was the last song they played. But gradually, during that song, one by one, they kind of left the stage and roadies took over. Turns out this was the final Replacements show. So pretty cool. I was there. I watched it with about 8 friends. We were in the lawn with blankets and beer and food. But I do remember that. I love the Replacements. I actually caught them in 2013 on that kind of reunion jaunt that they had. It was a great show. Only Tommy and Paul were involved. Chris Mars opted out. Slim Dunlap was not involved. And they had the great Josh Freese on drums, who also does duty with Sting and Devo when Devo get up and do some live dates. But that was a great show. I saw them in Denver, and really happy I had that opportunity to see the Replacements again. So still in Chicago, summer of 1992, I had finally got my bachelor's degree, and I had kind of like the summer off. I had plans to move to Los Angeles in the fall, which I eventually did. But I was just kind of kicking my heels in Chicago for the summer of 92 and made my way up on a hot July night to Cabaret Metro. There was a new band called Sugar that Bob Mould was fronting. I had discovered Bob Mould in '89 with Workbook, his solo album. Went all the way backwards and dug into Husker Du. But I absolutely love that Workbook album. But when I saw this show with Sugar, they played Copper Blue in its entirety. I don't even think the album had been released yet. Still to this day, the loudest concert I have ever witnessed. My ears were ringing for 2 or 3 days afterward. But this was an incredible show. I went out and got the CD when it came out on the day of its release. And I have seen Bob Mould many, many times since then. I saw Bob Mould most recently here in Fort Collins, Colorado during his Sunshine Rock tour. And I've noticed that he has got another date booked for Boulder this fall. May or may not go to that, but anyway, that is Copper Blue by Sugar. This is, I think this was a reissue. They actually had the EP Beaster as well on Merge Records. Sounds amazing. course, it's a gatefold. I think I'm going to stop there. There's 5 albums that are touchstones for me. Oh, right. We need to talk about a couple songs on Copper Blue. Definitely Hoover Dam, just an exhilarating song. There is an intense mix on that album, just like the show was, but Mold, famous for that churning Pacific Blue Strat is what he was using at that point in time. But anyway, Hoover Dam is the one for me on that album. I also like A Good Idea. Hey Dom, thank you very much. That's my entry for Gold Sounds. I encourage others to go check Dom's channel out. Throw up a video if you want to help the cause for Eric Weinbender. And I will see you on the next video. Have a great day.